Perspectives, a current affairs discussion program on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM, Makurdi, Benue State. Today on Perspectives, our focus is on measures to mitigate flooding in Benue and other parts of Nigeria. The rainy season is already here, and the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has already predicted that at least 31 states of the country will be experiencing flooding, and Benue is also marked as one of the flash points. And in recent rains that we have had in Benue, particularly around Makurdi, the state capital, cases of flash flooding have been reported already. What measures can be taken to mitigate this disaster that seems to be a perennial one facing our country and, of course, their state as well? What are those specific things that the people in the communities and in our settlements need to do to tackle this challenge frontally? And what is also the commitment of government with regards to addressing these? What are those aspects that experts will be profiling on what we need to key into as a kind of advocacy and sensitization concerning this impending disaster? I've been joined here on Perspectives by a professor of climatology in the Department of Geography at the Benue State University, Makurdi, who will shed light on some of these concerns. Professor Bernard Tyubee is our guest on Perspectives. Welcome to our studio, Prof.
Thank you very much, Nats. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Good to have you always. My name is Nathaniel Nongu, welcoming you to this Monday edition of Perspectives, which is the first day of July in the year of the Lord 2024. Half time flies. We have already gone past half of the year. It is an audience participatory program which airs from now to 11 a.m. And at 10 o'clock, you can call in to also participate. The number through which you can reach us to participate is 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. You may also send us a text message or a chat on WhatsApp to 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. You may log on to our website on www.igetradiotv.com to also listen to the program live, and follow our social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X, where the program is also streaming live there. Prof, from your point of view as a climatologist, what is the rainfall prediction this year in line with what the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency has given us an outlook of what will look like?
Thank you very much. The seasonal rainfall prediction of 2024 showed that this year is El Nino year. It's a dry year, relatively, compared to other years. But when you are talking of flood, it's not just the amount of rainfall that is concerned, but also the distribution. So we can still have cases of flood even within a dry year, like what we are experiencing.
Okay, which is to say, if we are to experience a flood, already as it has been reported, it's not just a function of the rainfall.
Yes, but it's distribution. That is not a function of the total rainfall, but also the function of distribution. Distribution has to do with the rainfall events, that is the rainfall intensity. You know, we can have flash flood, for instance, when the intensity is very, very high. So what is happening now is flash floods that are occurring. Then we have reported cases of flooding.
Okay, so beyond the rainfall, what are those other factors that also aggravate the flooding situation?
Yes, it's not only an issue of rainfall, but a combination of anthropogenic factors. Flood is a an interaction between meteorological and environmental factors. So mostly it has to do with rainfall interacting with environment, mostly about people, vulnerable people. If there is no vulnerability, then you cannot talk of disasters. So places where flood occurs without human involvement, you cannot talk of disaster. So we are talking of disaster here because people are involved. We are talking of vulnerable people, vulnerable infrastructure and assets. That is where there is a problem.
Okay, now let's dive into the natural factors, which is rainfall. Are there human factors responsible for uh, flooding experience?
Yes, from the natural factors too, it's not only rainfall. We have geographical factors, which rainfall is one of them. Most importantly, we have to talk of elevation and drainage because we are talking of water flow. So when you are talking of elevation and drainage, you are talking of either channeled or unchanneled flow. That is where flood comes in. You talk of drainage because water flows through the existing natural channels, or you are talking of elevation where water flows into low-lying areas. So these are very, very critical. Apart from elevation and then drainage and then rainfall, you have other geographical factors that has to do with the nature of the soils, because hydromorphic soils that have poor infiltration are also vulnerable to flooding. Soils that can have a very high infiltration rate has lower cases of flooding. So those are the natural factors. We also, on the other side, we have the human factors. The human factors here has to do with mostly the population density, the people. The people here can be looked into from different perspectives. People mostly in terms of settled areas can interfere with the natural drainage channels. That is on the other side. And then at the other side, they can settle in vulnerable areas, areas that are not supposed to do, and also temper with the human structures, drainage structures. So that is where there is a problem. And as the population increases, then the probability of flooding to occur also increases, which is why flood is a major problem with built-up areas, mostly towns and cities, because of the population concentration.
Okay, looking at these factors, especially in line with the population, which you also pointed out, what is the peculiar experience of Benue that you think these factors contribute to the flooding we seem to face in parts of the state?
Yes, Benue State is very the hydrology. Benue State is one. We have several perennial streams or rivers that cut across the state. That is number one. Then number two, the elevation of the state also is a problem, major factor. Most of the places are low-lying areas. I think the highest point in Benue State is in Kwande. The Mon area of the state where you have something slightly above 500 meters. Apart from that, almost everywhere is mostly below 200 meters. So that is a major contributing factor. And then thirdly, as I've said, the population is increasing. We have now over 5 million people, and when you are talking of people, you are talking of the activities as well. As the population increases, you have probability of people activities in flood-prone areas, and then also, as we have said, the interference in the natural drainage system or the drainage network that affect the free flow of water.
Okay, now let's look at the peculiarities of the local governments. You pointed out Kwande, for instance. Based on the seasonal rainfall outlook this year, even though you disputed that rainfall may not be the only contributory factor to flooding, in terms of research and the outlook as released by the Nigeria Hydrological Service Agency, what are those local governments that you think within Benue are at the risk of this flooding?
Yes, thank you. In 2017, December to be precise, after the August flood disaster that affected Chusa and the D area, there was emergency and preparedness framework or response plan that was prepared for Benue State. During that EP emergency preparedness response plan program, stakeholders engagement, we discovered that flooding, the commonest hazard in the state, affecting almost every local government. With the peculiar local government are those within the River Benue and the River Katsnala floodplains. Mostly you have to talk of Makurdi, Gatu, Guma, and then Katsnala. I think Buruku, Katsnala, Guma, Makurdi, and Gatu. This local government that falls directly within the floodplains of the River Benue and River Katsnala. These are the major ones. Apart from these ones, you can also have records of flood disaster almost everywhere. Even in mountainous areas, you can still have flooding.
Okay, let's go back to the factors, the human and natural factors. Why the natural ones cannot be controlled? For instance, the stop the rains may literally be impossible. But what can be done to control some of the human factors?
Yes, human factors here, you are talking of controlled development. If you are in cities, you have to manage the development process through strict adherence to development plans, building codes, and other structures of the city. You know, if you have done that, you can to a larger extent be able to mitigate. For instance, through land use policy, land use can be regulated. This means that every particular area or region, we have a specific activities that should be carried out. And through also building codes, you can also have a kind of restriction to buildings. All these things are part of the framework that is already existing in cities and other urban areas that can mitigate flooding. And then you also restricting development and habitation in highly vulnerable areas, and then land use change, converting certain land uses to those that are less vulnerable. You know, these are some of the things that you can do. In cities, human population and density is almost at the center of the control of flood mitigation plans. When you move to the rural areas, here most activities is farming and human habitation. So it's easier to mitigate flooding in rural areas. through sustainable agricultural practices, where you don't need to cut down a whole forest before you plant rice. Or you can farm directly inside the river, into the river beds or river banks, before you can make a harvest. So when farmers' enlightenment is carried out and a lot of sensitization, the rural component can be easily handled compared to cities where people have already settled, and it's very, very difficult relocating people, and where more people are coming in, and at the center of it is the access to land, where everybody is struggling to get a land for one use or the other, making the whole thing very, very complex.
Okay, in our towns, for instance, the factor you mentioned of population density, in our towns, maybe if we should localize it around Benue, the population, as you also pointed out, is growing. Are there particular strategies we need to adapt in our towns, settlement patterns, that people, the consciousness of people, so as to mitigate the impact of flooding?
Yes, strategies, whether adaptation strategies or mitigation strategies or a hybrid, is another thing at the center of climate change adaptation. You can look at the issue holistically, whether you look at it as a climate change issue or as an environmental issue, whether you need a policy, climate change policy to achieve that, whether you need an environmental policy to achieve that, or whether you need the flood management policy to achieve that. It's a very, very critical issue. It's very, very critical because any delay in tackling the issue of flooding is in itself poses danger. If you can allow me, let me share with you what happened that has redefined a flood management approach in some European countries. It was just a normal day in winter, January 31st. Around that time, you are just entering into winter, just approaching midwinter. And all of a sudden, there was a storm. A storm was detected in the Northern Sea. The North Sea is between the British Isles on the left and then the European mainland on the right. So all of a sudden, a storm was detected on synoptic chart. On that Saturday afternoon, that was January 31st, 1953. So from that, then there was a very strong storm on that day, unexpectedly, that caused a lot of storm surge. And then the storm surge generated tidal waves that pushed a lot of seawater into the UK and then the part of Netherlands and northwest Belgium. Within some few hours, transiting from January 31st to 1st February 1953, which was on Sunday, before people knew what was happening, these countries were already ravaged by flooding. In Netherlands, for instance, almost 2,000 people died because most of the countries were flooded. Prior to that disaster, UK has with Netherlands, where those structures were overwhelmed by that single incident of January 31st. So what am I saying is that flood management is a holistic approach. It needs a lot of things. It needs a lot of studies. it's quite different from other hydrometeorological hazards because the nature is a little bit different, and the causes are also a little different, and there's a possibility that two or different type of flooding can take place simultaneously, and a lot of factors can interplay to have a kind of a catastrophic event. So, which is why those two countries and some of the European countries, after the disaster, reassess their flood prevention defenses, and then came out with some of the best flood management infrastructure. If you go to Netherlands now, people are trooping in all over the world to come and just look at what these people have display. And that was just because of that incident. So you can't just wake up one day and think that you will handle the issue of flooding. You need to carry out a detailed study to know the nature, to know the mechanism, to know the integrated system, because you are talking of water moving through the natural channels and water moving through the places that don't have natural channels, and the situation where you have flash flood interacting with riverine flooding, interacting with so many other things, which makes everything looks very complex. So what the government of Netherlands did now is to go back, reassess what they had that couldn't help them, and then carry out a very detailed study to reassess everything and come up with some of the best flood management infrastructure in the world. And that is how it is handled. Because when you do that, you are putting in place structures that are sustainable, structures that can take care of the current issues and the one in the future, And then you are also looking at structures that can also reflect local peculiarity. Local peculiarity in the sense that if you go to Netherlands, the structure in the southern part of the country is different from those within some of the cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. So all those things are now embedded in that management framework to look at the local peculiarity and then look at the general issue. That is how flood can be better managed. So you can do this at the level of a country. You can look at flood management in Nigeria, integrate it within the climate change policy, and then we look at the issue of the local peculiarity in terms of rural flooding, urban flooding, inland flooding, coastal flooding, highland flooding, or whether it is flash flood or riverine or release of water from reservoir. All those things can be easily mitigated. And it is also very expensive. You need a lot of money to do this. But once it is done, flood can be 80 to 90% managed. This is done in other countries.
All right, dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on I Get Radio 95.5 Star FM, Makurdi, Benue State. We are discussing how to mitigate flooding. Leading us in the discussion here in the studio is a professor of climatology in the Department of Geography at the Benue State University, Professor Bernard Tyubee is our guest on the program. And you can participate later at 10 o'clock by calling us on 0814-335-9292, 0814-335-9292. Send us a text or a chat on WhatsApp to 0912-699-9404, 0912-699-9404. That line for text messages and WhatsApp chats is already activated for you to send in your contribution. And you may listen to us by logging onto our website on www.igetradiotv.com. You can also stream this program live on all our social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter. We are available on all these platforms to serve you. Also, if you have your Radio Garden app on any device at all, you may listen to Agate Radio there. Prof, in terms of holistic plan for flood management, how do you assess the performance of Nigeria as a country?
Yes, looking at flood management nationally and holistically, I think we have not done enough. I remember this when the issue of dredging came up. The government is not serious. Dredging is also one of the flood mitigation strategy. Dredging of River Niger and River Benue to increase the depth to accommodate more water and reduce the cases of water bursting the banks, as the government is not serious. And then the issue of the dam system on the River Benue as a buffer dam to Lagdo Dam. Up till now, we are not talking about it. And we are moving to the point where we'll be hearing of the Cameroonian authorities trying to release the water. And we are playing politics with the issue of disasters, as if disasters are also members of registered political parties. I remember last year when the Cameroonian authorities issued a alert on the release, the embassy or whatever was summoned, summoned to explain what, because the dam, the Lagdo Dam, is getting older, and the siltation coming in. If we are not playing politics, one day that whole dam will collapse, and then we see the other side of it downstream. Instead of us to be doing whatever we can do, we are trying to shift blames to other people, which is also common. So we have not started. Even though we have a national climate change policy that embedded this issue of disaster management, we have not started. That is why we are where we are. There is no coastal defenses trying to hold back intrusion of ocean waters into coastal areas. That area too is no much has been done, because you need to build those structures. Because just like what happened in 1953, they are on the half, but what came overwhelmed the existing infrastructure. So even if you don't have, just imagine if both countries didn't have any defense system, it would have been worse. You see, so from that area too, we have not done much. In the issue of riverine flooding, I've said, issue of dredging is not taken serious. And then provision of dams on the River Benue is supposed to be a buffer dam to the Lagdo Dam. In that area too, there is no much improvement. Then the area of urban flood management, yes. Here, federal government started the issue of resilient cities. I think here is good, but we only have pilot studies, 3 cities in Nigeria, which is too small. Every city needs to build this kind of resilient structures, because flooding is not selective, or you can't zone it to one city and the other. Every city is vulnerable. So we need a kind of urgent approach to this menace, because the danger, the impact of this disaster on our economy is increasing. I remember that after the 2012 flood disaster, the federal government established a disaster assessment, the post-disaster needs assessment. The report was very shocking. I think that may be one of the reasons why no report assessment was made again, because the state affected and the cost of the one single flood disaster for that single year was terrifying. I tried to convert that figure to the national budget of the country for 2012. I discovered that the impact of the disaster in terms of monetary value was almost 46% of the national budget. So you can imagine the impact of flood disaster within 2012 alone. And every year, flood disaster is occurring. So it means that it is one of the hazards that pose great threat to our economic development. So we need all kinds of seriousness to mitigate and adapt to it.
When you mentioned the issue of dredging, Prof, the dredging of the rivers has been an issue that has long been advocated now. From your opinion, what do you think may be hindering the move towards getting our rivers properly dredged?
Political will. Political will. Yes. If they can revert to the old anthem within 1 or few weeks, why can't they do things that are needful with that kind of speed? It's the political will. Some of these things, I don't know, we look at it with levity. Or I don't know whether we want to use those disasters to advance something. I don't know. Because these are the things you can integrate the dredging into the annual budget. You see, maybe every year you dredge, let's say about 10 kilometers of the river. That will also significantly reduce the riverine flooding. So is dredging segment by segment will be too expensive, considering the positive effect on the economy, including protecting the riverine communities and infrastructure, and then improving navigation. Will that be too much? You see, I think our leaders need to know what is important and doing the right things at the right time.
Political will. So, which is to say, in your opinion, the political will to do this is what is lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go along. In the immediate, Prof, what are the low-hanging measures that could be adopted now that the rivers are yet to be dredged to mitigate the impact of flooding in our towns, in our village communities, and all that?
Yes, the government is trying. I think there are sound administrative structures in place. We have the SEMA there and all the other NDAs. I think they are doing their best. We have the legal component, which are the laws protecting the environment. I think they are also there. What we need to do is to revisit the issue back to buttress what I want to illustrate. That if care is not taken, one day we woke up and we experience the worst. In 2012, as I was saying, ending of September to first week of October, we woke up and the Cameroonian authorities announced the release of water from the Lagdo Dam. And the water was cascading very fast into Nigeria. NTA was showing live. We saw dead bodies in Adamawa State floating on the river. Nothing was done. And then 2 or 3 weeks, the water reached Benue State. And people were seeing that kind of volume of water for the first time. Then what happened after? It's in the domain of public knowledge. Then 2 years after, that is in 2015, around September of that year, River Benue overflowed its banks, pumping water into low-lying areas of Idia, Oda, Wadata, and Boko Road. People were shocked. A lot of houses were submerged. People were displaced. That came and gone. Then in 2017, to be precise, on August 27, Saturday night, people around Chusai and Idi areas prayed and slept, waiting for some few hours to go to church. Then on the 27th, which was a Sunday, there was a storm that settled on that area that released thousands of liters of water. And then the whole place was flooded. Some people woke up in the morning after 4 to 5 hours of rain to discover that they were already trapped in their houses. We were seeing that kind of thing for the first time. Then everything calmed down. What are we learning from these disasters? It means that one day, 2 or 3 of these disasters we occur concurrently, and that is when we see the other side of it. When you are playing with small disasters, you are giving them the power to metamorphose into a bigger one that can threaten almost everybody. That is why in disaster management, delay is more dangerous than not doing anything at all. Because the more you delay, the more you worsen situations. So management has to be done promptly. You have to react to disasters with all seriousness in order to save lives and to protect property. That is this thing now. So when you are talking of managing flood, for instance, a built-up area like Makurdi, you have to do a detailed risk assessment. It's the risk assessment that will tell you the areas that are highly vulnerable. We differentiate the vulnerable zones so that you know that here the impact will be higher, here will be lower, and the rest. And then you bring in the interaction of factors. You look at the geographical factors, interrelate them with the anthropogenic factors, because that is very, very important. Because when you want to design the structures, the flood control structures, you have to take into cognizance the level of vulnerability and the level of development. You can't just destroy places just to construct a canal, for instance, or a dike, for instance. You consider the density of structures and look at the better way. So these are all the holistic things that make up management of flooding very, very complex and very, very expensive because of the cost of the structures and the inconveniences of putting those structures on the ground.
Okay, one may argue, Prof, that the other infrastructure, for instance, the dredging of the river, getting the buffer dam, capital expensive. But in the immediate, how about getting our drainages properly, channeling the water, and also uh, maybe mini ones in major parts where there is a high density, high volume of water flowing through?
Yes, that is true. I think government is doing well in that. Um, Trying to desilt the channels periodically. They have done that to open up those that are blocked. Um, some of the challenges here has to do with people that have access to areas that are supposed to not to be settled areas. You know, the government should have a land use control that this place there should be no settlement or there should be no housing, and enforce those provisions. If that is done too, the cases of flood disaster or the impact of flood disaster will be reduced. And then we can have a very holistic relocation plan. And now government should be thinking of, for instance, through a very simple survey, you can ask somebody. The person can tell you that he has been affected for so years. So somebody that has been living in a place that has been ravaged by flooding consecutively year in, year out, that person is supposed not to settle that in that place any longer. So those areas can be easily identified through very simple survey by Urban Development Board in conjunction with a related agency, so that you use that survey and begin to identify a highly vulnerable area and have a holistic relocation plan. These are the little things government can do. Government can also revoke the C of O or some of this land and convert them into public uses. Uses include wasteland restoration. What is happening now is that climate change is affording a lot of new opportunities. We are talking of blue carbon. Blue carbon is derived from a sequestration of carbon dioxide by wastelands. So some people or governments are restoring or creating wetlands within city just for the sake of beautifying and reducing atmospheric concentration of CO2. But here we have those places in abundance. What they need is protection. So these are the things government can do, because some of these resources are meant to accommodate thousands of liters of flood waters. So they are natural flood control resources that nature provides. So when you protect them, you are also solving the problem naturally.
All right, dear listener, once again, if you are just tuning in, the program is Perspectives on Agate Radio. We are discussing how to mitigate flooding, and leading us in the discussion, I have with me a professor of climatology in the Department of Geography at the Benue State University, Makurdi. Professor Bernard Tyubee is here with us, and later, just minutes away at 10 o'clock, the line for calls will be available for you to phone in and participate on the program. That line through which you can reach us is 0814 335 9292. 0814 335 9292. Send us a text or a chat on WhatsApp to 0912 699 9404. 0912 699 9404. You may also log on to our website on www.agateradiotv.com to listen to us live. And also, if you follow our social media pages on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X, you follow the live stream of the program. You may also drop your comments on these links, and if they're related to the subject we are discussing, we may take it as your contribution on the program. You may also, if you have your Radio Garden app on any device at all, you may listen to iGate Radio live there as well. But Prof, just before we activate the telephone lines to engage with our listener, let's talk about what communities and individuals in households can do in line with early warning, that are early warning response that is often given by disaster management agencies or government authorities with regards to mitigating flooding.
Thank you very much. Early warning system is a very important component of disaster preparedness, because early warnings are meant to not to prevent the disaster but reduce the impact. That is why they are issued. And when they are issued, they're supposed to be followed by the right reaction and responses from all the stakeholders, which is why when they are issued, people living in supposedly affected areas have to take action. And then the disaster management institutions also start mobilizing resources. But the experience of 2017 flood disaster showed that, that year too there was an early warning system. So when we wanted to know from the victims of that disaster, we were surprised by the responses we are getting. Majority say that, yes, I heard about the warning from SEMA, from Ministry of Information, from NTA, or Radio Benue, but I thought it is going to affect another place. I didn't know it will affect me. That is what the people were saying. You see, so it means that most of the government structures are really working. And then the problem now comes back to the people, the household, who received this information but failed to act. As we are saying, if you go to places, they have done nothing. Even to put sandbars where they can walk to their houses, they have done nothing. They are still sitting there waiting for government to intervene. You see, so when you have people that cannot help themselves, they become a burden to the government. That is why we advocate for this permanent relocation, because if you allow these people year in, year out, you have to be still coming to their aid, because some are trying, but some virtually they are doing nothing, waiting for the government. You see, so the institutions have tried. NIMET has tried in issuing out this warning. The one from the hydrological agency too has tried. When these warnings are issued, you will hear of SEMA carrying out an enlightenment awareness campaign in rural areas. You hear Radio Benue. They are also trying. But the receiver of this information, which are the people at risk, the household at risk, the majority are not doing nothing. And they say these people have come again with this their lies. So there is a general apathy on the part of the people. So when you have this kind of situation, disaster management becomes very difficult, because people themselves, they have to act when they receive this information. How will you act? You can start mobilizing your property, moving them from where they are. If they are on the ground, you can raise a platform and start putting them on top of them, especially perishable things. Those are the little action you will use. Or if there is a channel close to your house, you start digging it or clearing it. Or you construct a fence, a small built-up fence around your house, so that it cannot stop the intrusion of water. These are the little things that people can do. Or you can move your sensitive things away from your house. You go and keep them with your neighbor or your family friend. These are the things that little mitigation things that people living in vulnerable area can do after receiving the early warning system. But here is always the same thing, the apathy. Hey, these people have come again. Hey, these people have come again. And then after everything, the same people will be calling for government to come to their aid. So we need to do something.
Okay, but Prof, they have settled. They have acquired the land. They have settled there for a long time. They don't have anywhere to even relocate to. And even when advisories or early warnings are given, no place is provided for anyone to relocate to. So in such situations, how do people get to cope?
Now, that cannot be completely true. That cannot be completely true. During our study of the 2017 flood disaster, we discovered that more than 70% of the people affected did not relocate to international markets. They went to their family friends. So we are talking of social networks that are working. You either have an in-law or your sister or your friend that you can relocate. And that proved right during the 2017 flood disaster. So for you to say that those people don't have anybody, it is not true. But I'm also saying that there are basic things that you can move as you are anticipating the disaster. Those are the little things that you can do. Move those perishable things, documents, put them on table, so that by the time the water comes, at least you will save something. Or you construct a drainage so that water can bypass your house. These are the little things. It's just doing nothing. I'm telling you that people go there and see. People, as we are talking about, are still doing nothing. Folded their hands and waiting for SEMA to come and give them aid or government. Things cannot continue working like this.
When you mention having to move items, perishable items on the table, on tables or high elevated platforms, for instance, but are you forgetting the fact that in some of these places, houses are even submerged, Prof?
Yes, I'm talking of the preliminary mitigation.
Okay.
As you are anticipating, they tell you that the flood disaster will occur in August. So that is in July. So you will start something as you anticipate. When the disaster as predicted occurs, then you can continue. It's not a one day something. It's a continuous response. You prepare. That is what we are saying. And then the government itself also supposed to provide centers where people, who are displaced by disasters should relocate to for profiling. You need to profile these people. We also discovered that when you fail to do that and you open the floodgate of rehabilitation center or displaced site, majority of the people that will go there are not the actual victims. So you need to have a shelter zones or areas where people that are affected in a particular zone can move to, and then there will be people there, NGOs that can government officials that can profile them. What is your location, which street, which number, and number of household before they will move to the IDP center.
Okay, well, our prayer is, as we are discussing the strategies the authorities should key in, so we don't have necessarily having to contend with the situation of flawed, internally displaced persons added to the ones we already having. Dear listener, this is the time for you to call in. You can reach us to participate on the program on 0814 335 9292. 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, kindly let us know your full name and where you're calling from. Then make your submission. Please keep it very brief. You can also send us a text message or a chat on 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. Hello, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you on Perspectives.
I am under Shigeb from Makurdi.
Okay, hi, so I will Jack Bamaino to go this morning. All right.
Thank you. And I just yes, the professor in the house today.
Thank
God
you.
has touched our mind. What I want to contribute in this topic matter is that I start with the people living around the urban areas itself. Even if they are living how far, not how far, but how well. You have lived there for a long time, and there was no disaster, but you have been aware, they have been told that something is coming in future. You have to prepare yourself, because life is more than any other thing. Even all the properties they acquired there, it is because them where to go. They should not doubt about life. That is for the people and for our government. I want the government, as they know that something that happened in Ghana disaster is beyond man's control. It is the government that can control this partially. God will do it, but government can do it for us by dredging the rivers, that when water comes, it can follow the riverine area, not coming out and then to affect the people living around the rural areas. So that whatever the government is doing, even the budget they make, let them get apart one big part of the budget for this disaster, that person has to live before they can enjoy the place they are living. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you, Ondachi Gabriel, for calling in. Government and the people have a responsibility to mitigate the impact of flooding. Okay, listening to that, on the part of the people, are they keeping their part of the bargain, Prof, with regards to mitigating flooding?
Yeah, not really. That is what I was trying to say, because when they receive those early warning reports, most of them fail to act, and they just sit there, waiting the impending disaster. Some just dismiss the warning systems. They always say. So we really need to work on our people to change their consciousness.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Nathan. My name is Jude Pere.
Okay, Jude
Calling
Pere.
from Bakum.
Good to have you.
I salute the professor in the house. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Your analysis are very wonderful. I must appreciate you. First, you talked about the political will, and the political will should be there. We can't be reactive. We should be proactive, because sometimes government approach issues with fire brigade approach. They wait until it happens. So government should be up and doing. Provide refuge buckets as strategic position within those local governments, and also create channels drainages where water can flow freely. And also the attitudinal change of our people. People should stop dumping refuse in gutters. You don't wait until government comes to clear your environment for you. You have to do it because water has no enemy or friend. It can come at any time. And when you say you don't have any place to relocate, the water will sometimes force you to relocate. You might even lose your life and your property. So people should be very, very careful, adhere to warning signs
All right.
of flooding.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. Thank you so much, Jude. We appreciate you for your submission. The line is still open. You can call in on 0814-335-9292. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome.
So, my name is Benjamin Tewase, calling from High Level.
Okay, Benjamin Tewase, good to have you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I have a land behind the LUCS that links down to, as if you are going to Achusa, and a big drain that is around the Niman layout. If you notice it, you discover that our people will go there and block that drainage so that they will catch fish. And the sand that they will use. And so when water comes, water will not be able to, flow in that drainage. So it's not everything that will live on the part of the government. We are the architects of our problems sometimes. Now, you block that thing. There is no way water will flow, all in the name of they want to catch fish. Some people go to an extent of putting nets. They will put nets there that they want to catch fish. And there will be a restriction of water. Water cannot be able to flow through. And that's the only drainage that is controlling everything behind Zone 4 government model and the one that links down to the to River Benue. So I think these are the things we should take cognizance of. It possibly law enforcement agencies should arrest such people anytime they are caught in the act. Because most of the times we blame the government on some of these issues and we are causing it ourselves. That's my contribution, sir.
Thank you, Benjamin Tewase, for your contribution. We appreciate you. That's part of the human factors we were discussing earlier, Prof. Our people should also have a change of attitude. But beyond the change of attitude on the part of the people, is there something that is missing? For instance, if a drainage are constructed and they are blocked, how is that possible? As Benjamin Tewase is alleging that people will block them for catching fish. This purpose, I don't understand what it means by that. Anyway.
So we use it as for refuse dump. They do disposing the refuse in the night. They will come there and then, use the gutters to dispose their waste. He's talking about the fishing. Yes, what is happening is the blockages are, especially in densely populated areas. They use the channels, the gutters to dispose waste. So that is what is happening. So when water comes, it affects the free flow, and then the water spill over everywhere. So attitudinal changes is the main thing, as he was stressing. Because if you know that what you are doing can cause, pains or harm to somebody, you will not do it. You will not do it. Some will complain that, there are no refuge collection bin or whatever. But even if there are not, there are more sustainable ways that a household can dispose of their waste. You don't need to block any gutter or any channel. You see, so they use good reasons to justify their wrong actions. So as he said, in most cases we are the architect.
Stop being the architect of our problems. You can call in on 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. If you're not able to get through to that line because it's quite busy, you may send us a text on 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. That line is for SMS and WhatsApp chats. Also, log on to our website on www.igetradiotv.com to listen to the program live and follow our live stream on all social media platforms as well. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Perspectives.
Yes, this is Kwaza Vincent calling from North Bank, Makurdi.
All right, Kwaza Vincent, go ahead.
Yes, I greet the Prof in the studio.
Thank you, my
for
brother.
as long as human being exists, we must keep on talking about this flooding all the time, because until we have a change of attitude. You see, sometimes government will complain of government. When government do good things for us, we will still not maintain that thing. You see, now there is gutter everywhere in the town. And when it's about to rain, people will now pack refuse and go and dump inside these gutters. That will block the free flow of water. So if we have the change of attitude, we will not be blaming government. Government has done enough for us. He has built these channels to let water pass there and go. We'll go and block it. And when water does not find a way to go, it will now enter our compound. So we should learn, we should change our attitude towards this environmental things. So if we don't change our attitude, we'll keep on complaining, government has not done this, government has not done this. Now, you will discover that some places, if you go, people build house on this water, where water is supposed to flow. They build house there. And when this rain comes, it will enter inside and they'll say, government has not done this for us. They will say people should relocate to safer area. They will say government should come and do this. On your part, what have you done? So we should have a change of attitude towards these environmental things that will get it right.
Kwaza, let's start with you. On your own part, what have you done to mitigate flooding in your area?
Yes, to my own part, the gutter that is in my frontage, I try to clean up and advise those who block these things that if we do like this, when the rain fall, it is...
Okay, thank you, Kwaza. Quite unfortunate the network did not, maybe your airtime got finished, but we appreciate you for your submission. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel Nongu.
Thank you for joining us on Perspectives.
Yes, my regards to your guest in the studio.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, my name is Vincent Ako. I'm calling from Wadata.
Okay, Vincent. The last caller was Vincent Kwaza. Vincent Ako is here now. All right, go ahead.
Yes, you see that government should try and provide drainage system, most especially for those of us in Wadata. As a matter of fact, there are no refuse dumps anywhere. The containers that you are supposed to be dumping refuse, there are no containers, and then people will go and be dumping refuse on the roadside. I'm not encouraging that, but what I'm saying is that government should provide refuse dump, and at the same time, the same government should also come and construct drainages where necessary. If government alone cannot do it, then who will do it? Are they not there to provide all these things for us? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Kwaza, thank you. Sorry, Vincent Ako. Thank you for you made a pose at that. Sounds quite funny, but we appreciate you for your submission. Government should provide refuse dump, maybe waste bins in water tap. But it speaks to the challenge of waste management. Prof, are we getting it right?
Yes, and no. That has been the problem. Issue of waste management.
I will beg to interrupt you. I'll come back so you expand your thoughts on that briefly. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Presenter.
Thank you for joining us on Perspectives.
I want to appreciate your guest in the house, the Prof.
Thank you very much.
My name is Efas Ako.
The name is
Efas Ako. Efas Ako.
Efas or Cephas?
From Katinala.
Okay, Efas or Cephas?
I say Efas.
Okay.
It's not Cephas.
Okay, thank you.
E-F-A-S.
Oh, good. Which part of Katinala are you reaching us from?
Central Ward, just Takawe,
Okay.
number 28.
Okay.
Number 13.
All right, go ahead, Efa.
Sir, I want to crave your indulgence concerning the issue of flood and how much it has caused damages. When your Prof was talking, he made mention of areas that are prone to flood activities. He mentioned Kwande. But I want to tell you, the most heated place for flood in this Benue is Katinala and Agatu. And in most cases, when it happens, the people don't cry out. They manage the situation, most especially when you go down to Otazi. I don't know if you know Katinala very well. You should know Otazi and Hausa quarters. All the rice farm there between Jiladako Hospital's quarters and Otanga there will be flooded with water. And for one day, we've never seen any government agency, SEMA or federal, that comes with any relief material to cushion the effect. And even there has not been any public education to the people around there. But in other areas, I see, like if I come to urban cities like Makurdi, normally when it's time like this, there's a public enlightenment as relating to warnings to flood in those areas. But in that area, sir, the people are still naive. So government has to do more on its own side by going down to that local environment to educate the people on that. And concerning the part of our people, we also share in the blame. Most of the times, there are so many channels that lead to the waterways. Major drainages are there. Major gutters are there. Erosion control system have been dug by government, but our people still go to fill it with waste bins. But that notwithstanding, the government is for us and to continue to be for us. So I crave the indulgence of the government to please give us more enlightenment in rural area concerning these activities, most especially in Katinala, Buruku, and Agatu. Thank you. I'll rest my case.
Efa, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And that is why Agate Radio, as part of its corporate social responsibility, we are bringing that enlightenment, and we hope you will key into it and also sensitize your people. At least you are able to get us what we are discussing and step down the sensitization. Prof, we were speaking about the challenge of waste management and how it also contributes to the issue of flooding.
Okay, before I will continue with that, the last speaker said something that is not true. I didn't mention Kwande in one of the most vulnerable areas of flood disaster. I mentioned the riverine areas within River Benue and River Katsnala.
Okay.
Specifically, I mentioned Katsnala, Buruku, Makurdi, and Agatu, because geographically these are the local government that falls directly within the floodplain. Yes, you see, population is a resource, but when you failed to manage the population explosion, there are bound to be problems. We are talking of flood vulnerability. The population is at the center of it. Now we are talking of a related issue which has to do with waste management. As the city continue to grow, Makurdi is now moving close to 1 million. I think 1991 population and that one of 2006. Now we are talking of a city that has almost up to 500,000 people, and more people are coming in, especially now that crises are affecting the rural areas. Very soon, the whole city will be clogged with people and refugees, and that has to do with other associated issues, mostly with the issue of waste generation. Waste generation will increase, and then the challenge of waste collection and transport and treatment are other components of waste management. You see, so here too, there is a need for government to promptly revisit it, because when people don't have a place to properly dispose their waste, then they will look for what they think is right. You can't blame them to some extent when there is no alternative and they prefer something that is available. You see, so we need to revisit the issue of waste management. If the MDS or the government structures are overwhelmed, they're supposed to be empowered to do the work well. Or the government can even engage private partnership in the waste management. The government can also look at the issue of, bringing the management into, smaller units. You can subdivide the city into smaller units and then give out the management of waste in those areas to individuals and people that can do that. Where I was.
I'll interrupt you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good to have you on the program.
Yashi from Kanshiro.
Yashi who?
Yashi Benedict.
Okay, go ahead, Yashi.
I thank Professor very much for elaborating on management of the floods.
Thank you, my
See,
brother.
the problem here in Makurdi, we are the cause of our problems. Take Wurufu Market for an example. People, the traders will just drop, they use sachet water, thinking that it's a light thing.
Yashi,
it will go.
Hello, Yashi.
All right.
Please, before you continue, move away from your radio set or turn down its volume so we can
It's
hear you.
Okay,
better.
I'm away from it.
Okay, continue, please.
So I was using Wurukun Market as an example. The traders there will use sachet water and throw it on the drainage system so that they will think it's a light thing. Another person will throw, then they will go and collect somewhere and becomes a hindrance for water. At Achusa, you see the river, the small brook called Halakem, started right from high level area here, New G area and this thing. And if you go to Achusa, that river runs through that and there's no room for it. There's nothing left for that. I was there when they were surveying that. No room is made for that. Right this year, Achusa has suffered for floods. So I think if we are planning, if government is planning for any other layout, it should be taken into consideration. And those of us who are there too should take care that we have all these things. So all that I'm saying is that thank the Prof for giving us all those details, and those of us who are in those areas should try to do something. You see, like he was talking of collecting some sand in some bags to prevent you from getting that into that. So all that I'm saying is that we should try to help the government to help us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Yashi Benedict. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm so sorry to have interrupted you, Prof. The call came in persistently and we needed to respond to it. And I will still take one more before I come back to you. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Well, this is Adaboka.
Okay.
So I greet Prof again.
Welcome.
You are. It's as if I normally see you physically, but because the way you put it, I did some geography too in secondary school.
Thank you.
Climate unpredictability. This story comes to show you what life is all about. There was a leader in this country. He said before he went to jail, his wife was organizing a birthday party. Now, when he went to jail, he came back and was sitting. His wife suddenly died. And he said, how unpredictable can life be? So this is the kind of situation we have with climate change. And I want to also sing a small song. What's gonna be is gonna be.
I'm so sorry. We may not have the long time for a song.
Simply, what I want to say, now, take it easy now. Government can be exonerated. Look at, if you go into, I love my governor, but if you go into the streets of Makurdi, many have desilted their gutters, put it at the edge of it. Nobody is packing those things away. Those people, where will they take this trash? They don't have their personal waste dump. Government has to indicate this is a waste dump here, and government has to clear those things that have already been removed from the gutter. So, year in, year out, you sound as if the people, we have personal issues. If we are sincere, we know that sometimes we cannot help them. So please, government should always take the lead in a most sincere manner. That is what I'm saying.
All right.
I love my governor, and I like Nigeria. Take the dressing, for example, year in and year out. What are we doing about it? They're discussing aircraft. Thank you.
Thank you, Edabauka. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We love the governor too. All of us. He is our governor. So the governor is not a target of the program anyway. We're just discussing in general sense. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
My good brother.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
You may do us a favor by moving away from your radio set or turning down its volume.
Oh, yes. Are you hearing me now?
But anyway, your radio is really interfering with our communication. If you move away from it, that will be fine. Or just turn down its volume completely so we can hear you better, please.
Yeah, we'll call back.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Once you connect with us, that's the first thing you should do. Okay, Prof, I will allow you to conclude your thoughts. You were landing with the point of getting private investors into waste management.
Yes, what I was trying to say was that where I was living some years ago, there was a private company that was collecting our waste, and I was paying 1,000 naira per month. So I bought a collection bag, and I just put it there. You come around and pick it. You see, that is what we are talking of, private engagement. We can do that, and they will also assist in the management. It seems the institutional structures are overwhelmed. So if you say urban development, the board alone should do this as the population continue to increase. Unless you have to, increase their capacity.
All right. So private investors should get in. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Are you hearing me very well now?
Yes, you are on loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning, everyone there.
Morning to you.
My name is Kepas Igwe.
Kefas Igwe, where are you reaching us from?
From Yima, back of Federal Office. Right from Rain Oil to B Division, there's no bucket there. From B Division to Otukpo Road, no bucket there. From B Division to road safety, I want to ask, if somebody have dirty on his place, where should he dump it? I'm against people who they drop on inside gutter. This place where I measure, there's no bucket. Where are we to drop our refuse? Are we to put them inside our room? And just that professor will ask this question: where will we drop our refuse? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Could that be all from you?
It's all that. Where will we drop our refuse?
Thank you, sir.
There's no bucket from Renoi to that place where I call. There's no bucket. Where can we drop our refuse?
Thank you, Kefasigwe. We'll speak to that. Thank you so much.
Hey.
We appreciate you. Okay, Prof, this seems not to be really a question, but a frustration on the issue of waste management, which we just talked about.
Yes. There are various ways of managing household waste. What we need is more enlightenment. Like in my house, I practice use of incinerators, the open incinerator. I separate the degradable from non-degradable waste, and then I burn the non-degradable ones, the leather bags. The agricultural waste, what I normally do is to bury them and then use that as a manure site to farm my vegetable. So that is what I do. You see, I told you that somebody was collecting my waste and I was paying. But when the person stopped, I have to resort to the use of manure and use of incineration. I think people also need to be educated.
Okay, we'll go along. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Sir, Benjamin, I have an important awareness that I really want to share on this program.
Very brief, Benjamin.
Yes, at high level, you notice that at Queen's Clinic, as if you are going down to railway crossing, a youth leader, in person of Mr. Barnabas Ikuna, he did something that is very, very commendable. In fact, that day he told us that everybody should come out on a Friday night, that the last sanitation on Saturday, everybody should come out and clear the gutter in their frontage. And not just to clear the gutter, as you cleared it, you evacuate the sand out of the road. And he told them that if you don't have the power to do it, or you don't have the energy to do it, pay somebody that can do it for you. And that was how they cleared the whole of that gutter. So this is a deterring example to other youth leaders out there. In your area, you can talk to your neighbors to clear your gutter, clear the one in your frontage. At least that will help the free flow of water.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin.
So that is why I say let me share on this program.
All right.
That will go a long way. It will help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you. That's part of communal efforts in communities, because our focus majorly is not waste management, but it has only been identified as one of the components of the issues aggravating the flood situation, and that is why we dived into it. So when we talk about it, it should be in line with managing flood.
Morning.
Morning to you. Hello. We lost connection with you. The line is still open, 0814-335-9292, 0814-335-9292. You may also send us a text on 0912-699-9404, 0912-699-9404. Log on to our website on www.agageradiotv.com to listen to us live. Good morning.
Good morning, presenter.
Morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Prof, in the studio.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, it's the voice of Mark Anwangbe, the father, who is good from Tehagagweloko government.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I think we have been discussing this issue of flooding on radio on daily basis. I think we need to give total compliance from the Bensesa. As other callers have said, if in the urban cities, if the bucket from the Bensesa are not being provided at the appropriate places, I think it is a blame from the government. But where there is buckets and the masses are failing to comply, I think there is no need we should be blaming government. So blocking our drainage channel, it is the cause of flood in the state here. And come down to the rural communities, we need to follow our father footsteps by controlling the big ridges around our environment so that the water can have a diversion. So from the government, what I can blame the government is that there is no monitoring process based on the preventive measure from the environmental sanitation rules and regulations. Because if there is monitoring, the enforcement team need to be enforcing the masses, because there is a saying in T language that that is, you must trash that stick that you used to have a rope there before the rope will be easily come out. So human being is not easy to control. If there is a monitoring team and enforcement team, everything will be okay.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you. Let's take a few messages before we come back. This one says, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel, your guest in the studio. Since we know that Benue is peculiar in terms of flood disaster, government should construct a drainage system to avoid flooding in Makurdi and other parts of Benue. If government alone cannot do it, as some people used to say, I wonder who will do it. Vincent, I call from Wadata. Okay, Vincent, thank you. You called in earlier too. Another one here says, thanks for this educative program by my professor outlining the problems and thank you, Dave Bachabo. Unfortunately, you didn't specify where you sent the message from, but we appreciate you, Right Honorable Dave Bachabo, for contributing on the program. This one says, one of the precautionary measures to curtail flooding, which is simply the sudden rise of water in our river, is perturbation. Artificial water bodies should be made to change the narrative. Activities capable of environmental degradation should be maintained. Anyway, thank you. We appreciate you, Isaac Otua. We appreciate you for sending the message from EA in Goma. We're trying to make sense of it. Thank you very much for your contribution. The line for calls is still open, 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. If you are just tuning in, the program is Perspectives, and we are in 9404. Prof, before we engage with more people, let's talk about a comprehensive policy for flood management in the state. You have worked with the agencies, you've been in the field doing field and risk assessment. Is there one that is standing in place to be keyed into anytime we have this challenge on our hands, or is just some approach that are haphazard adopted every now and then?
Thank you very much. I think the state government in the process of developing a state policy on climate change. And I think that policy will also include part of climate change adaptation and mitigation. It is within that you have flood mitigation and adaptation. So I think something positively is going on. And apart from that, you can look at the issue. From another perspective. It is done in other climes of the world. You develop a hybrid flood mitigation and adaptation action plan to tackle the issue of flood disaster for a specific geographic region. That can be easily incorporated in the development plans of the government. That is easier to handle because some of this action or strategic plan, the duration can vary. There are some projects that you make it 3 years to address a specific region, or you can make it as long as 5 years, or you can make it as long as 7 years, depending on the magnitude of the issue involved. Flood mitigation or flood control action plan as the most effective ways of dealing with flood disaster. For instance, you can develop a strategy of controlling flood within the Idie Basin. So you just delineate the Idie Basin and focus on it. When that is resolved, you can now move to another area, maybe Logo 1, and then Logo 2, and then Boko Road, and then Wadata. Or you can pick Wadata area, this highly vulnerable area of Boko Road, from the bridge up to feed the market, and then, control flooding there. So you can reduce the action plan to as more as, a small geographic area, depending on the resources that are available, and that is the best. And then the action plan is also preferably, because I consider the issue holistically, looking at all that is involved, and then building scenarios. You build scenarios that will take in the future disasters that may happen in the area, and then the population that will be at risk. When you include those things in the development of the plan, you are taking care of not only the present, but also the future. And those strategies that may come up may be more sustainable, than doing another thing. So that is what is happening. But it has to involve a lot of money. And because you are engaging almost all the stakeholders, the end result is better. Planners are involved, engineers, architects, surveyors, hydrologists, climatologists, and all, human resources can be engaged in drawing that kind of action plan, and that is what happened in most of the countries. In Netherlands, for instance, as I say at the beginning, in the southern part of the country, what they have there is tackling the issue of ocean surge. So what you have structures there are mostly dams and storm barrier. If you go to Netherlands on the River Rhine, they have developed an infrastructure that can be able to lock a river. A barrier that can lock a river of 10 meters high, that can prevent the seawater from entering into the lowland areas. So such infrastructure was developed as a result of stakeholders' engagement. Somebody might have brought that an idea, So when you engage more stakeholders, you get a better result. Then when you enter into the cities of the Netherlands, you begin to see different type of project or infrastructure. You have the dikes, you have the canals, you have the underground water reservoir, and so many other infrastructure. All these things as a result of stakeholders' engagement, and this is what is currently happening and provides a permanent solution to flood disaster. So if you take a small area, you can, control it and then move on to another area. So gradually, the issue will be a thing of the past.
All right, that's our hope too. Let's take a few comments from our live feed on our social media page, particularly on Facebook. Tyubee Joe from says he's watching from Boko, Benue State. He said, "Keep up the good work. Picture quality is very good." All right, we appreciate you for joining us on the live stream. Joe, thank you so much for your comment on the live stream too. And there are some others there, but that's the one we are able to take for now. Prof, I would like you to speak to us on the basis of with this challenge now on our hands, not just in Benue, in the country in general, in terms of the national emergency management as well as the state emergency management agencies. What are those low-hanging measures you will recommend for them to alleviate the challenge on our hands in the immediate?
Yes, thank you very much. In our structures, legal structures that are responsible for disaster management in our country, in our state. I think they have lemma at the local government, just like other structures, they need government support to do or to deliver on their mandate. It's not just by establishing the structures, but giving them, empowering them to be able to carry out those activities that are meant for. So far, so good. NEMA has tried, and our own SEMA has also tried. I've been following the activities in terms of sensitization. I know anytime they receive a early warning system from either NIMET or the hydrological agency, what they normally do is we swing into action, trying to sensitize the people in affected areas. We've also done a lot on IDP, some rescue and rehabilitation of affected people. But they need to be empowered. Empowering here means that they need to have they need to stockpile all the necessary materials that will facilitate their operation. For instance, in the 2012 flood disaster, part of Boko Road around Kuchotebe and the rest were flooded. And they need boats, to move in. And I think it was the Marine Police that, were capable of patrolling those areas, but they will normally do it in the daytime. So, they need a lot of floatable boats now that they know that our major problem is flooding, so that they can access some of these areas freely. In that case, they need to have trained personnel in that regard of using floatable boats. They also need contingency places in these three major areas, flood disaster areas: Boko Road, Wodata, and Idie area. A very small area where, in terms of disaster, people can move into. That is very, very important, because when disaster strikes, people need a place to move into. It is when they move into those areas that you can profile them. Profiling is very, very important, because you know the actual victim you are dealing with, the household size and their need. So from there, they are moved directly to the camps. Before they move that, you have already known their size and their requirements. So you should know what you will provide to them when they finally get to the ITP camps. But when that is not done, then there are some opportunists everywhere. They are waiting to cash in. They will not even live close to where the affected area, where they will be the victim for them. So those things are areas that SEMA can look, and then periodic training and retraining of their staff, because disaster management is becoming more complex in terms of search and rescue operations, in terms of high ties, and then all those things. So you need to train your personnel to work on these victims, which is one of the things that we discovered during our field work, because people who are affected are mostly traumatized. So all their things, so they are very, very traumatized. So they need counseling. You need to counsel them so that you bring them to the level that you can even interact with them. So they need a lot of psychologists in that agency.
All right, our time is really up, but for those listening to us, and of course, and every average person in the community and in towns, in one word, give them a word of concept now that it is obvious that Benue may also face flooding. What they need to do in the immediate.
I will derive my concluding words from some of our callers. We should be more proactive than reactive in handling cases of flood disasters. And we should also consider that we are also part of the problem, if not the architect of our problem.
Okay, we should be proactive and not reactive so we don't get to be the architects of our problem. And that will be a fine place for us to leave it on today's edition of Perspectives, which will discuss how to mitigate flooding. I must appreciate very sincerely solely discussant on the program, a professor of climatology in the Department of Geography at the Benue State University, Makurdi, Professor Bernard Tyubee. Thank you very much for coming on Perspectives.
Thank you very much.
Dear listener, we appreciate your listenership. We couldn't take all the calls because the time was not enough. We hope you will be here with us. Join us on Wednesday for another edition of Perspectives. I am Nathaniel Nongu. Stay safe and God bless you. Have yourself a great weekend. Goodbye.